Welcome back to day 2 of learning about the Underground Railroad. Today we're going to talk about Harriet Tubman and how she aided in the Underground Railroad. So first we're going to review from yesterday. So this picture that we saw yesterday just kind of represents what the Underground Railroad was. It's not underground or a railroad, but it had to be very secretive in order to help slaves escape. So it had to be very underground and secretive. So what was the Underground Railroad? So it was a community of people who let slaves who were trying to reach freedom stay in their homes. These people also aided slaves get from one destination to another. Around 100,000 slaves escaped using the Underground Railroad. So it's a system of transportation and shelter, basically. So next we're going to talk about her background, her early life. So her name was Minty Ross at birth. Her first name is a little bit hard to pronounce, so I'm not going to try it, but she went by Minty. She was born in Maryland around 1822. She was owned by the Brodess family, so she was born into slavery. So at the age of 5, she started working. She was loaned to other families to work, so one family had her rock their baby's cradle all night long. She just stood there and rocked the cradle. If the baby started to cry, Harriet would be hit multiple times by the mother. So just kind of showing you the conditions that they had to live in. So this is Harriet Tubman. So the escape. So first she got married in her early 20s to John Tubman. Now John was a free man, so he really had a lot to lose by marrying Harriet Tubman. Any children that they had would become owned by the Brodess family if they were to get married. So they did get married. And in September of 1849, Harriet attempted to escape, and she actually did escape. Her husband would not come with her, and at first her brothers went with her, and then they chickened out and then went back. But she did escape, and she went 90 miles to Philadelphia, and this was also when she did her name change to Harriet, and that was most likely to her mother, which her name was Harriet as well. So in Philadelphia, she found domestic work and made abolitionist friends. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 also happened while she was there, and it said that if slaves were caught, they had to be returned to their owners. Very scary time for Harriet Tubman. She had just gotten there a couple years before, and she could be potentially taken back to her owner, which is really scary. So helping other slaves. So this was her life. She helped other slaves escape. That was her life. So in 1851, she returned to Maryland to get her husband, John, and he did not want to. He actually had a different wife at this time. So instead, she found a group of slaves. They were actually a family with a baby, and so she helped them escape and find freedom. Over the next 11 years, she made around 13 trips to rescue around 70 slaves. She rescued almost all of her family members, and she also sent detailed instructions to help another 60 or so slaves also escape. So later on, so this is during and after the Civil War. So the Civil War starts, and Harriet basically works wherever she is needed, whether it's organizing or helping wounded soldiers, it's wherever she is needed. So after the war, this is a big part as well. She goes to New York to her parents and helps other slaves, which is, again, her life. In 1869, she marries her sweetheart, Nelson Davis, and a few years later, they adopt Gertie. So they have a daughter, and that picture is actually of their daughter, Gertie. Financially, she really struggles because she's constantly helping and giving away money to other people to help them survive, and so she really struggles financially. Happily ever after, she is able to live with her husband until 1888 when he dies. In 1889, Harriet's services were officially recognized with a nurse's pension, and in 1913, Harriet dies from pneumonia in a home for elderly African Americans, which she worked to establish. So she died in a place where she helped to establish, which is actually kind of special for her. So we're going to do a little bit of a recap or review. These are the main points that you need to know. So if you want to pause this video to write them down, you can. Harriet Tubman escaped In September of 1849, she changed her name from Minty to Harriet. During her escape to stay hidden, she helped over 1,000 slaves escape slavery, during which she was putting herself in danger of being caught and taken back into slavery. So she's a very selfless person. Once the Civil War started, Harriet worked wherever she was needed, but still saved slaves. And in 1889, she was finally recognized for all of the work she had done to help slaves and to help the Underground Railroad stay kind of underground and hidden. And that is all for Harriet Tubman.